Doctors, you've got years of experience, perhaps hundreds of patient stories. You have insights that could change lives, but maybe only your clinic is hearing them. What if the world could do that? Well, I'm Dr. Mike Woo-Ming.
And I'm Dr. Ann Truong.
All right. And on Dr. Boss, we're going to talk about how physicians can use a tool to amplify their voice, build authority, and grow their brand. It's called, you guessed it, podcasting. And we're going to discuss kind of how we got started in podcasting and more importantly, how you can get started in podcasting in a little under 24 hours. So, Anne, let's just talk about your experience with podcasting, and then I can talk about my years in doing
Wow,
this.
man, I'm surprised you're asking me to go first because you're really the king of podcasting. Because you've been doing podcasting, you told me since like 2013 or something. Yeah, you should
Okay,
go first.
I can go on in there. So I have been doing podcasts. We have our Dr. Bot podcast. You may also be familiar with one of my other podcasts, Bootstrap MD. I launched that pre-COVID. I think I don't know how many years it's been, but it's 300 plus episodes. You can go to bootstrapmd.com and you can listen to all 300 plus episodes if you'd like. But I've been having a weekly podcast off and on for the last 5 or 6 years. I think I missed 1 or 2 weeks during that time. And for me, it was like it was the one vehicle that I could do that would force me to create content on a regular basis. In terms of like writing, I'm not really great at it. I get writer's block. I've only learned about video through Anne, and Anne is trying to get me out of my comfort zone. For me, it was just being able to talk and be able to speak in that microphone. But like I said, as Anne mentioned, Bootstrap MD is actually my third podcast. I had actually started a podcast back in 2014, 2015, so over 10 plus years ago. I don't know if you can even find it. Maybe they're in some realm on the internet somewhere. I talked about entrepreneurship, specifically internet business entrepreneurship. Actually, the first time I did it solo, and then I actually had a co-host for it. We can talk about the pluses and minuses of having a co-host on it. I ran that for about, I'd say probably 50 plus episodes. It was a great way of getting my feet wet. And then I just for whatever reason, I got tired of it. Life got in the way. I stopped doing it. I tried to do another podcast kind of in the same sphere, entrepreneurship. Didn't last for a few more episodes. Really decided 5 or 6 years ago, so let's get serious with it. And that's how I get involved in podcasting. Yeah, I think, Don, you wanted to know specifically how I got started in the early days, Anne, if you wanted me to speak on that.
Yeah, right. What I like to showcase is the hard way. Right now, Doc, there's not an easier time now to start a podcast. And why should you do a podcast, right? Like Mike alluded to earlier, that what if you can amplify your voice? It's just beyond the clinic, a one-to-one, and now you can go beyond the clinic doors and now have the world listen to your voice. So when we talk about podcasts, we're talking about audio, but now you can do a YouTube channel, which is video, and then you can take the audio from the video to make it into a podcast. That's what we're doing right now. My channel on YouTube and also our Dr. Boss channel, like we're doing now. We're on YouTube, but we're also on audio everywhere on Spotify, Apple, Amazon. But now with the advent of AI, never easier to do, and you can literally launch it. So I want Mike to share how he did the pre-AI days, and then talk about with AI how easy it is to launch and create a podcast now. And then I'll share my experience as well.
Yeah, so I guess talking about my venture into podcasting 10 plus years ago, like you said, it was pre-AI. I think one of the benefits that I did have in before creating podcasts was I was comfortable speaking in front of an audience. Before that, there were webinars. There used to be something called teleseminars. So what teleseminars were webinars, but if you wanted to get information, we would have calls where you get on the phone. It would be like a webinar. We would present something, information. It could be something that we're selling at the end, but people would get on like a conference line. Again, this is really, now I'm like getting into the reaches of my brain here. This is like early 2004, 2005. So I was used to speaking on a topic for like 45 minutes to an hour plus on a phone. So I did have that because I think in terms of like the harder thing to do, what is first being able to speak on a subject by yourself for like 30 minutes can be very difficult to do. It did get easier when I had a co-host because I think there is easier as like Anna and I are speaking where we banter and we talk one another. One brings a topic in and someone can reflect on that topic and give their opinion. I do think that makes it easy to flow. But in terms of like difficulty, speaking about a subject for 20 to 30 minutes where you don't have an audience or you don't have anybody to bounce off it can be very daunting. The things that I learned doing the hard way is I had a script. So I would have a script or just an outline. It was basically before I would have my call, I would just run on a pad of paper and just think of topics. And what I would do is, let's say you wanted to start up an online business. And then I would say, okay, let me think of 7 things you should know before starting an online business. And then I would just write out 7 things on there, similar to the way that an article is written. So instead of writing an article, I would just basically speak it. Now, sometimes I would actually take articles on my blog and those would become podcast episodes. But then, as I mentioned, in my office with a microphone and then just speaking to it. But then there are some times where, so like, I want to make sure that I podcast on a weekly basis. I would like, I need to do an episode real quick. Sometimes I'd be driving to my clinic or driving to my office and say, I'm just going to hit the record button, a voice memo on my phone and just speak for about a half an hour on it. I probably wouldn't do it these days because I would listen to some of those old calls. You could hear the highway, you can hear the rustling of cars, beeping, people yelling on there. Probably wasn't the most enjoyable for the listener on there, but for me, it was just like, oh, I don't even know if anybody's actually listening. But as a matter of fact, people did listen. And that's actually where it was exciting because I would have listeners who say, hey, you were in my ear while I was walking the dog or I was on the treadmill. I would actually be invited to travel to speak in conferences around the world, and just getting off the plane in Singapore and say, hey, I listened to your podcast. We've never even set foot into this country. And that's what was really exciting about having opportunity to amplify my voice, as I mentioned at the beginning, to speak on things. But yeah, some of those early days, I guess I look back there fondly, but yeah, it was really kind of, we don't know how easy we have it now with AI.
Well, you make it sound so easy to do, but what was your reason to do a podcast then? And by the way, that's how I discovered about you. I found out about you during COVID. I'd take my daily walk when we weren't working and we were supposed to isolate. I live back of a battlefield. I would take an hour walk. I would go on podcast. That's when I started even listening to podcasts. I didn't know what a podcast was, actually. I'm like, well, I'm tired of listening to music. I'll just listen to something, learn something. And I found your podcast. I don't know how it popped up on my search. I'm like, okay, well, listen to this. And that's how I got into your world. And that's how we kind of connected over the years. And it really is my start of my journey to entrepreneurship as well, because I started learning from other entrepreneurs that was publishing on podcasts, because you never really know who you listen to that may really change your life. And I honestly have to say, I listened to you. I was listening to Russell Brunson. I was listening to Ray Dalio, Tony Robbins. The more I listened, the more I wanted to listen. It really opened up my mind on possibilities of what you can do, entrepreneurship, other than just seeing patients in the clinic. So what was the reason why you started podcasting?
I think one was just to establish myself as a thought leader in that market, or better establish myself. And I think other things too, it was building connections. It was interesting. Like one of my first interviews is I had with James Dahl, who is the white coat investor, who's probably well known in this industry. I got to interview him. He agreed to be interviewed because I had a podcast, because he wanted to get his stature amplified. This is actually before he was really getting started. I remember where he was like, yeah, this is kind of like a hobby for me right now. I like to speak about financial literacy. That allowed me to get connected with him, got connected with some really big people in the industry. I've had Russell Brunson on, I don't know if it initially was my podcast, but I've interviewed him before in such guys like Frank Kern, who was a mentor of mine. So many people in that space I got to know a lot better. And really was because you have to think, why do you want people to be on the podcast? Because they want to spread their word around. If you just said, hey, can I, let's say you want to speak to a famous author, what is going to resonate more, easier is say, hey, can I call you out of the blue and can I talk to you for half an hour? Or could you do it another way? Hey, I have a podcast. We would like to have you as a guest. Which one do you think that they're more likely to accept? Obviously, it's going to be the second one on in there. That's why I like people to have a podcast, because if you want to build connections, it's one of the easiest ways to build a connection. Sure, you may not be able to get a Tony Robbins off the top. Maybe later on you might be. But there are other people in this space. They're looking to get exposure as well. I like to think of one of the best ones to get for the exposure is the person or the thought leader is coming out with a new book, right? So what do they want to do with the book? They want to market their book. How better way to start getting connections is like, hey, we'd love to have you on our podcast to promote your book to my audience. Many of them, some of them might say no, but many of them probably won't. It'll allow you to just get connected with them, and who knows where that leads. It led to us working together, but you could find your future guests, your future collaborators through podcasting.
Right. And because it really even out the playing field, right? Because if you're interviewing somebody that is a mentor of yours or somebody you look up with that you normally probably wouldn't even interact, but you're able to invite them on your podcast and have a one-to-one interview where they can share their message to your audience and vice versa, that kind of even out the playing field. And now they know who you are and what you do. And I can't tell you how many people I have connected with from just interviewing them on my podcast. And that's the reason why I created it, was really to be able to connect with people that normally wouldn't even connect with me. If I come up to them at a conference in the past, I would say, hello, my name is Truong, and they'll be like, hi, and then they walk away. But now I come up and say, hey, I have a podcast and a YouTube channel with 100,000 plus subscribers, and love to talk to you about your program, so forth. What do you think they're going to say? So there's a saying, if you're not invited to the table, create your own table. And doctor, you can create your own media empire. Okay. And I didn't realize what the power of podcasting or even being online mean until I'm actually experiencing it right now. We on video, we're on online, we're a brand ambassador, we're doing consulting, we're designing products, but now we're going to do events as well too. So it really becomes media, really empire that you can kind of do without a big company. So let's talk about doctors that are listening to this. What are the steps they need to do right now in the advent of AI to create a podcast in less than 24 hours? But let me tell you, when I first started podcasting in 2021, I had to hire a company and I was paying them $5,000 a month to publish my podcast. At that time, only audio, wasn't even YouTube. And then I started doing YouTube later. I had to upgrade to $7,000 a month, pay them as a contractor. But at that time, you didn't know what you didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. There was no AI to help me. I just recorded the content at that time. So now with AI, how can a doctor leverage that to launch a podcast within 24 hours?
Okay, very good. There's a few steps that you can do. Let it out of the way too, just to let you is I am a co-owner of a company called Doctor Podcast Network, where we help doctors launch their own podcast. That is one quick, easy way to get it done. But if you're trying to do this on your own, there are some steps. First is you want to pick your niche. What are you going to talk about? What is the topics that you are going to discuss? I recommend that when you're getting podcasting, you want to be in a topic there where there's constant new information on there. You want to make sure that it's something that you yourself are interested in. Is this a topic that you can talk about on a regular basis? Entrepreneurship, there's always something new going on. We've got AI, but let's say you choose another niche like how to deal with the Y2K virus. Probably not very topical right now, right? So you want to focus on a niche or topic where there's always new information that are coming in. There are interesting guests in that market. The slogan, the riches are in the niches, and that's so true. Second, when you determine your niche, you want to determine what type of format does your podcast want to be. Are you going to be solo? That means you're going to have to be able to talk for 20, 30 plus minutes. Are you going to have an interview style where you're going to be interviewing person each week? Are you going to have a co-host on it? That can be an easy way of getting things done. I had a co-host. We had some times where my co-host wasn't able to make it. So you want to make sure that you both are committed to having this podcast. You can change it up. On my Bootstrap MD, I do solo. Every now and then I do an interview. So you can have like a hybrid model on that. Okay, so you got your niche. You decide what kind of format that you want to do. Step 3 is you want to get your basic equipment on there. Like I said, you could easily just start with your iPhone. Anne has been teaching me to get more and more sophisticated. So she can make me get a Shure microphone on there. And do we have a link?
This is the Shure microphone. So what we're going to do is that we're going to put a link to a PDF that has all the equipment we recommend. Honestly, doctors, I mean, you don't have to get this. Oh, this is a $300 microphone. It's the best on the market. But you can start out with a dynamic microphone that's like $50. And that's an audio. But if you want to get a webcam for YouTube, you can get one for $50. So you can really start your podcast journey less than $100. All right. So we'll link to cheaper version that works well. That's the one I started out with, a $50 dynamic microphone. Then I upgrade to this when we cross over to 100,000. But you don't have to start with the best microphone out there. I would suggest that you get a microphone instead of using your phone, because the audio on the phone is not as clear if you're going to use a dynamic microphone, and like get a good webcam if you're going to do YouTube. So we'll link it here as well. So get a microphone. What else, Mike?
Get a microphone. Ideally, you should get some nice headphones in there. Where are you going to record it? Make sure it's in a place in your house where it's going to be a quiet room. There's going to be little distractions. You might even want to set like a certain times that you're recording your podcast, just so to make sure that it's in a quiet space. You never know what can happen. So you need to kind of plan all of those things out. Then you got that. You got your niche, your format, your basic equipment. Then how you can record the podcast. What are you going to use? I started out by using something called Libsyn. That's Libsyn. It's a very inexpensive way on doing it. We since have moved to which one are we using? We're using StreamYard, our podcast right here.
Yeah, so StreamYard is a software that we use to record it. But however, because we're doing video, if you're just doing audio only, you can just sign up for Libsyn. I use Captivate because Captivate allows you to have multiple channels without extra charge. In fact, we house Dr. Boss podcast as well as my personal channel podcast on Captivate. So I think about the future, and that's why I sign up with Captivate. And who knows, we may have another third channel. All you really need is like something like Libsyn or Captivate to store the audio on there, so that way it can be distributed to Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and everywhere. We actually, our podcast, Dr. Boss Podcast, is distributed 60 different platforms and channels everywhere. The more you're out there, the more you can be found. So, and I think Libsyn even offer a free sign up as well too, but they're not that much.
Yeah, I don't use Libsyn anymore, but when I first did it, it just helped with that uploaded distribution. So I think it was good. Like you said, there are other companies that are out there. Buzzsprout I've used, Spotify for podcasters. So there's other places that upload and distribute. I'll be honest, I don't company that does that, so I don't know all of the intricacies of it. But you can start with Libsyn or the one that Ann you just mentioned, right?
Captivate. Yep. We'll put the link to that down here. And just a little plug, if you want to start a podcast, we have an event coming up in January 15, 2026. That's called Dr. Podfest. That is in Orlando, Florida, where we will help you amplify your message and your voice and your brand through podcasting or YouTube. It's part of the bigger summit called a Podfest Expo. So we're going to have a day just for physician, and seats are limited to only 100 doctors. If you want to attend, then check the link below. I believe we have a URL, drpodfest.com now. So it'll be a great event. We have a great marketer. Will be there to us, Perry Belcher, along with Mike and I, and some of our inner circle doctors as well. We want to eliminate the constraint and the barrier that you think that you need to start a podcast. It's really not financial. It's less than $100. You subscribe to software, either Libsyn or Captivate, and it's like less $20 a month. And now with AI, and you can even use ChatGPT to help you think about different topic you want to talk about that is niching down, because you really want to research topics that people are searching for, so you can talk about it, so that way it can be found. It's not like you don't want to start a podcast just talking about what's important for you. You want to start a podcast about what's important for the listener. There's three things: who are you helping, what problem are you helping, and how are you helping that problem. So that's what you talk about, but you got to research it. So that's what I call it reverse engineering, is that once the solution and the problem and the who, then you kind of go back and do research now with ChatGPT, right, Mike? And what else you recommend?
Claude, Claude. Those are the ones that I help usually to outline my podcast, to come up with descriptions, to come up with titles that will make people want to download my episodes. So yeah, using that on a regular basis, AI. Before we had to do it the hard way. We had to think of it all ourselves.
Well, before I was paying $5,000 to a company to do that for
Yeah,
me.
you like to
Uh,
pivot.
for me, it's saving
Yeah.
time and energy. For me, it's like somebody can do in 30 minutes versus me doing it for 3 hours. I'll pay somebody to save my time because my time, yeah, I can do a lot more. So you can actually do it yourself. You can record. Now you can use a software called Descript, which then takes out the ums and the ahs and even do simple editing as well. You don't want to do your own editing. You can hire somebody from Upwork, Fiverr, work.com, and Fiverr is spelled F like in Frank, IBERR.com. And you can hire them literally like between 20 to $50 per episode for them to edit for you. And if you do it monthly, it could even be less as well. So they can edit it for you and publish it to Captivate for you. But I would suggest when you first start out, try doing it yourself. So that way you can have an idea what the flow is, what the workflow is like. Now, I also want to plug in, I use Gemini as well to help me with the title. But then again, my podcast is the repurpose of YouTube. So I'm just not doing podcasts alone. It's from our YouTube video, and we take the audio and we publish it into a podcast. So any other recommendation? You launch it, the topic, the who, the what, the how you're talking
Then
to.
the final thing is just promote it. So when you have a guest, I like to have the guest have the links to help them promote it on their social media, promote your podcast on your own email list. We've talked about that. I like to record it. So you're using Ann's favorite channel on YouTube, just getting it out there. Finally, after you do all that, consistency is the key. Consistency will beat complexity every single time. Just do this on a regular basis. I think there was a statistic that most podcast episodes, most of them don't last more than 10 episodes. So there's a lot of people who tried it, but the ones who are going to continue is just being consistent and getting it out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough. And if you do, your voice matters. To keep it simple, and just consistency is going to help you build your authority.
Right. And consistency really come down to why you're doing it. All right. And I have to say, YouTube and doing video is something that I know how to monetize or make money from on YouTube more than making money from podcasts. Now, I know, have sponsors on your podcast. I don't have sponsors on my podcast, but I don't really care because my YouTube does a great job in generating leads for us for our office and also
You're
leads
your
for
own
us as
sponsor.
well.
You're your own sponsor.
You have a sponsor on your podcast. How do you get that?
Well, again, I work with our company, Dr. Podcast Network. We help physicians get advertisers on there. So what they look for is if you have a certain number of downloads, certain number of reach. That's the important thing is once you get things out there, they have some certain metrics that they look for. But we help aggregate other physicians having podcasts, but it allows us to get the small podcast. But if we group together, we're able to get advertisers on in there. So we have people who actually go and seek out those advertisers. But again, don't want to get too ahead. It all starts by getting your first one out there. Just do the first one on there. I did it the old-fashioned way. I recorded it. I uploaded all myself for the first few years. And then now I'm in a position I just kind of show up and a team does it. But just getting it out there. Again, your voice matters. So the world deserves to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely. And full transparency. At first, I had a contractor do my podcast, and then I used the Homozy technique. I had the contractor show me my first VA on how their workflow is. And then we took it from there, and then we started doing it ourselves. And now we have a whole team that does it for my channel and Dr. Boss channel, other doctor channels as well. But you can always pay the contractor to show you how to do it, so that way you can take it over if you want to. But the bottom line is now it's easier than ever. You can get started in less than $100, less than 24 hours. The thing is niche down, know what the problem is. And the more narrow the problem that you solve, the better it is. Like Mike and I, for me, it's erectile dysfunction. For Mike, what's your topic on your podcast, Mike?
Just general entrepreneurship. I get a little more into investing, whatever interests me. That's what I want.
Right.
Talk about my podcast. I'll talk about about pickleball if you want.
Yeah. But this channel, like our Dr. Boss, we try to give you ways that you can monetize your medical knowledge online, so that way you can build multiple sources of income. Period. That is what we're here for: is to motivate you to start thinking about clinic to content and start making money online. And it's so easy. In fact, I was looking at a channel just today. It's a physical therapist who's now blowing up on YouTube because he's showing baby boomers on how to do exercise so they can stay active. Now imagine you can do that as a doctor. He's making millions of dollars on YouTube from that. And I know his business structure, and how he does it is group coaching and one-on-one coaching. So, and we can help you launching that business model with Dr. Boss as well. So you can go to our website, thedrboss.com, to find out about our coaching program. So anything else you want to add, Mike?
No, I think we got it covered. And as always, we went long on this too. So
Mike always complained that I talk too much. Well,
no, we
we
just
both
get very passionate about it. No complaints right here.
That's
We're here
right.
to
No,
serve.
no, we are passionate about it, and we know what we're talking about, because not only do we walk the talk, but we also do what we say and say what we
Yeah.
do. And we're still doing it. It's like I see other people teaching you to do stuff. They haven't even done it yet, or they haven't even have a track record. I believe in that you should follow somebody that's like 5 steps ahead of you, so that way they can show you the way. And so we're still doing podcasting, we're still doing YouTube, and we're still seeing patients in the office as well. But we're also creating content. So we're doing everything we're teaching you to do. And we know the pain and we know the struggles. The hardest struggle is staying consistent. And I know that Mike and I, even though we do this together, we both have busy schedule. We're committed at a certain time, a certain day, Thursday at 3 o'clock. We're going to do this, whether we travel or what. Both of our schedule, if we can do it, anybody can do it. Trust me, because we're both very, very, very busy people. So having said that, I hope this is helpful. Check out our free school group at doctors with an S, onlinesuccess.com. Join it before we start charging it, where we have a lot of resources on how you can go from clinic to online and how to start leveraging your medical knowledge as well. So join that group. Just know that you just are not a doctor. You are a Dr. Boss.